Hello everybody, how's it going? Mark here. Today we'll be discussing Skaven for Mordheim Paramod and how these characters fare in the mod. I wanted to do actually yesterday the Witch Hunters, but I kind of just decided against it in the end. And I don't know, I feel like discussing Witch Hunters overall is going to be more difficult for me because I didn't play them as much. But yeah. Let's probably get to the tier list for Skaven then. Alright, and we're gonna start the right way with Assassin Adept. I'm gonna put like right away Assassin Adept into God tier category. Assassin Adept is actually one of my most favorite units in Mordheim, especially Paramod. In Vanilla, not as much, but in Paramod I think this unit is absolutely incredible. I think the biggest mistake that people make with Assassin Adept is that they try to build him as an order leader, and I think that's a big mistake in how this character is supposed to be played, in my opinion. Because as a passive you get plus 20% hit chance, but it's not only for like melee attacks, it's also for the ranged attacks. And you also get some like dodge bypass. And I really love this character because there's like a ton of ways to build this character. For example, you can build like a Daredevil build. You can build Weeping Blades build. You can build like a full-on crit build. You can build a support archer or support poisoner build. You can build a crit archer build. So there's like a ton of ways to have fun with this character. Also, what you'll be noticing is I'll be rating a lot of the Skaven units very high, and a lot of it just simply has to do with the reason that these units just get knowledge Mordheim mastery for free. And in my opinion, like mobility is king in Mordheim, because not only like the higher mobility not only doesn't just allow you to like move faster around the map, it also allows you to save more strategy points, which may be like important for you to get into a parry stance or something like that. It also allows you to break ambushes more easily. For example, if somebody is in an ambush with a movement 6, you're gonna have like a higher range than them when you're charging them, because you're gonna have like 8 movement speed, and that also affects your ambushes and your charges as well, so you also have like this sort of an advantage. But mostly like the poisons are kind of incredible really for Skaven. Alright, that's about it for this unit. I think just people try to build him, like it doesn't make sense to build this leader as an order leader when you have plus 20% hit chance. Alright, next unit that we have is actually Night Runner. And I'm gonna go ahead and put Night Runner into the insane tier. In my opinion, Night Runner is literally the best support archer or support poisoner for Skaven. It just simply has to deal with the mobility that they get. The condition to get +3 additional movement is very easy to trigger. You just have to like jump down, and you are able to, either with enchantments or however you want, you can even have like an unmastered swift jump in order to trigger the condition to get that movement speed boost. Once you get that movement speed boost, as a Night Runner, you're gonna have like a very easy time like running around the battlefield, and what you're gonna be doing is you'll be forcing like enemy warband to come to you, because you'll be like harassing them. You'll crippling shot, poison something, or you can like also control it with pinning shot and poison, you know, control the enemy movement and they just cannot move, or like crippling shot and they have like no offensive points, because it's like crippling shot and warp poison, I believe it's warp poison. They stack incredibly well. With one attack, you might be able to remove 4 offensive points for 3 turns. So, like, if a henchman cannot do anything for 3 turns, then it's kind of busted. So, yeah, that's why that's why Netrunner goes to the insane tier, because of its mobility. So you're able to just like go in, use all your shots, and then just go out and come back to your team and be completely fine. You're gonna be basically uncatchable. There are also some like melee builds, but they are more related to Weeping Blades. They are playable, but I don't think it's as good as I think other characters do this sort of a build better. Right, next character that we have is actually Black Skaven. And I'm gonna put Black Skaven into a really good category. So Black Skaven just comes with plus 15% armor penetration. Black Skaven's best use is just combining, like focusing on like armor piercing in general. You cannot really do like proper crit builds. I mean, you can. I've done it before, but there are better characters who can do it better, so it's not really worth it. If you're focusing on Black Skaven, you should be doing some sort of a damage dealing thing. And there is also like a sort of a build which focuses on ballistic skills, and you get like plus 15% armor penetration for your shurikens. I don't think it's as good of a build. I think that's just kind of a meme build, frankly speaking. I don't think that's worth it, in my opinion. And the weapons that you usually want to be using with this character is the claws, or it's the halberd. And I think there are like 2 different builds that you can do for this character. You can either do like a daredevil build or a mighty charge build. Right, next character that we have is actually Ashen Sorcerer. Hmm. Where do I put the Ashen Sorcerer? So I'll just think about this for now. I'm not quite sure where I want to put this character just yet. I think the biggest challenges that Ashen Sorcerer has, it just kind of relates to its squishiness. The passive is like actually really incredible. So you just have to like pick up one stone and you're gonna have plus 15% spellcasting chance. So you're actually like able to quite easily combine this unit with quick casting. And I think you're also going to be like pretty effective quick casting user. I think there are like different builds for this character. You can either play like this sort of a support Ashen Sorcerer, which focuses on debuffing the enemies with well, different debuffs, and like you're debuffing them so that your Black Skaven or your Red Ogre are just kind of like more effective overall. There's also a build which focuses on spell power and doing the Sith Lord build, you know, with like lightning hands, you know, just getting all the lightning out there in the world. That can be also like very effective, and I think also this sort of character doesn't have like a hard time like doing the geometry so that you hit all the enemies and you don't hit any of your units. Probably the biggest issue this character faces is any magic resistance. So like if enemy has any magic resistance, this unit might struggle to pull off anything. This unit also can be good as like this sort of a poison boosting unit, so that's also another build which kind of focuses on buffing your team with Blessing of Filth and just gassing people out with warp mists. So it's also like a pretty good unit in that case for people who like to just sit in houses and you just like poison them while they sit inside a house. So yeah, like a bunch of builds. As a melee resistance tank, I think I forgot that there's also like some stuff like Mask of Courage, which will like shield you from all alone tests and also shield you from terror tests, so you don't even need to invest into leadership all that much. So it's also like another plus for this character. And if you are gonna be like a melee resistance tank, there's also like the thing with this AoE cloud, which increases the range resistance of all the Skaven inside of it, but also of the enemies. So it's also like pretty good unit for anti-ranged and stuff. There's also like the ice spell, which reduces the offensive points of the characters around you. So that also like stacks pretty damn well with what do you call it, the poisons. Overall, I think this unit is like really good, I think, but I think it's still just kind of a tricky character to build, just because it doesn't really have all the physical points that it needs. So I'm just gonna put this unit probably into the really good category then. Moving on onto the leader version of Ashen Sorcerer. I think if you're trying to play an Order leader, you're much better off like going for an Ashen Sorcerer Order leader rather than this guy right here. As this Ashen Sorcerer leader should be 100 times a better candidate for any ordering round of your Red Ogre. I'm not sure how good this is. Like, I think I would always prefer going for the Assassin. I think just Assassin is kind of more consistent, but it's not a bad unit. I mean, what's the difference really? um, Technically, like this leader should be a better melee resistance tank because it has like more stats than this guy. But when it comes at the cost of not bringing Assassin Adept, I don't know. I like the way I play Skaven. I don't really even use Action Sorcerers. Technically, you can also like combine them with Doom Weavers. But again, you're gonna be like running into this sort of an issue of magic resistance. I'm not sure exactly. I think I'll just put this into the... I genuinely just want to put this into the good category because I don't have enough experience with this unit. Or I don't find it as appealing as the other Skaven units. But at the same time, this is a Skaven unit, so... I'll just put this like this, okay? Like this, probably. Okay, next unit that we have is actually called Red Ogre, and I'm not really sure where to put Red Ogre either. One of the challenges that people face with Red Ogre is that this unit is stupid. So you need to have like at least one character, probably just like you can either have like one henchman or at least one hero or leader which has a guidance mastery, and that's gonna like make your life much easier. To prevent like stupidity, or you can also use like the head enchantment, which prevents the stupidity effect from taking, but in that case you're kind of just like sacrificing a head enchantment. So I don't know if it's as good when you could be like, for example, grabbing plus 30 health. But honestly, this unit is like relatively easy to play. You basically just kind of put it on a map somewhere next to a henchman which has a guidance, right? And then you can like follow it up. Like, I guess the biggest challenge that people usually have is the high initiative. But this Red Ogre has like very high initiative due to alertness. You should be able to make like, usually like Verminkin is the best sort of a henchman for this purpose, to get like very high initiative as well. And they can just guidance the Red Ogre on the first turn, and then like somebody else can pick it up. Or even like you can make high initiative units Night Runner, you know, and have like the mastery. That's also a possibility, but it's like relatively easy to apply. Maybe like one of the things that I didn't mention is the fear effect, and I kind of want to compare it with a Red Ogre and the Ogre for the mercenaries. Okay, what is the fear effect in Paramod? Let's talk about that. So what fear actually does is when it triggers on an enemy, their strength gets reduced to 1. And their also alertness gets reduced to 1. And since like the alertness is reduced, that also just gives people 2 turning opportunities. So the mercenary ogre does an overall much better job of actually using the fear effect rather than the red ogre, because its initiative is much lower, and also mercenary warband has a much better ways of exploiting this, because like in my head, like mercenaries are all about like 2 turning people and stuff. In Skaven, this is not as effective, this sort of a 2 turning thing. It's possible to do, but not really with red ogre, or not really also with the other characters either, because they're like just in general kind of like high initiative units. Maybe one of the saving graces, or maybe like one good thing about the red ogre is actually the high initiative, and that makes it like less prone. If you have like such an incredibly high initiative, you might actually become not vulnerable to 2 turning effects anymore. So there is like also like a point to very high initiative builds. You are able to build red ogre in different ways. You can either build like a daredevil build, but then it has to be absolutely supported by an Ashen sorcerer, either the basic one or the leader. I think the leader is kind of better because of the order, but like the normal one is fine as well. So it's either a daredevil build or there's either a crit build. And with the red ogre, you have like a relatively easy time like hitting plus 50% crit chance, if I'm not wrong, possibly like 55% crit chance. The biggest issue the red ogre has is the lack of weapon skill. So it might just miss the target, but again, this can be supported by the Ashen Sorcerer and the Cloud spell, because the Cloud spell allows you to get like additional hit chance. So it's pretty good in that way. The Cloud also just kind of protects you from the range attack. You're also able to build like this sort of a dodge tank, Red Ogre, because of the stats. I don't think this build is very good, probably. I haven't really played it, to be honest, though. But you can do it, I guess. I guess it could be good in PvE, but I wouldn't rely on it on PvP. There's also like a Red Ogre build which focuses on getting as much health as possible, and it's like an infinite counterattack build, because your two-handed weapon is like two-handed. You are able to apply to it like an enchantment, which gives you a 90% chance to generate offensive points whenever you're hit. And if you combine it with a swift counter, it gives you like an 80% chance whenever you counterattack, you get 2 offensive points back. So you are kind of like able to make an infinite counterattack red ogre, and people are gonna like think twice if they actually want to attack your red ogre or not. One thing also I would like to compare red ogre, I would also like to compare it with another unit, and that is the spawn. So spawn and both red ogre are able to pierce parry, but I guess I just kind of want to like talk about the base damage of the red ogre and base damage of the spawn, and I guess like the difference between them. But overall, red ogre has like lesser damage. So when we grab the red ogre here and we grab the bracers, we can see that the damage is 59 to 69, right? And it has again the dual wielding property, just like the spawn is going to have. So 59 to 69 damage, right? Well, let's grab spawn here, and spawn here has, so spawn here has like 74 damage, and it also has obviously the dual wield property. So like overall, this chaos spawn has like higher damage. Like, not to mention you can also get like an extra limp, which further increases your melee damage and stuff. I think this unit can be like really good, honestly. I mean, it has like, it pierces parry, right? So it ought to be like really good. One thing that it will, or it might also just struggle against is because it cannot like swap weapons. You don't really have like any sort of a setup which counters melee resistance. So again, you're kind of just relying on Ashen Sorcerer to help with that, with debuffs and so on. Um, so I think it's kind of fair to maybe put this into the good category, and then this kind of like also makes me lean to put these guys into the good category. I think it's like between good and really good. The movement of this unit is also like +7, which is not like rest of the warband. But then again, you have like +1 SP. I don't know, I think you can like make this character work. Let's just kind of like put this into good category. Let's talk about the next character, that's gonna be Verminkin. So Verminkin is like actually like a really good henchman. It's probably, well, it's not the best dodge tank out there. I think that probably goes to the novice. But technically speaking, it could be actually like a even better than novice, and that's because of the movement. So Verminkin actually has like a much easier time like ending up in the sidestep stance than the novice, and that is actually related to the movement speed. Verminkin also has can be like a pretty good support archer, either like a support archer with crippling shot or even without it, and just kind of focusing on poisons. Maybe regarding the passive, it gives plus 30% damage increase, but that's related not only to your like melee attacks, it can be also related to your range attacks. Verminkin can also make like a pretty nice scout for the party, and I think like a scout unit is probably a good idea for the Skaven. Alright, as for the LGT version, I think that's just kind of okay. Sure, you can like do like a ballistic skill sort of a Verminkin with that plus 30% damage from the passive. But you're kind of like using shurikens, and yes, they can kind of hurt. But I'm not sure why I would like. If I'm trying to deal damage with Skaven, I probably wouldn't be focusing on the range attacks. I think Skaven has like much higher damage potential from the melee attacks. If I'm doing like anything range, I'll be probably focusing on the poisons and like the supportive side of things. So I don't really have anything against Verminkin. Let's go to talent, but I don't think it's like as good. Next unit that we have is actually called Warp Guard. So Warp Guard is probably like the best henchman in the game because it gets like heavy armor for free. It gets heavy armor for free because it has that Skaven passive or like Skaven attribute of getting +2 movement speed. So I think Warp Guard is probably the best henchman for all of the Chaos Warbands, more or less, because of that. You don't even, like, if you're playing like this sort of a heavy armor Warp Guard Skaven, you don't even need to go for like armor proficient, and with the combination of like knowledge Mordheim, I think very often it's just good enough to go for like an armor proficient and have like 7 movement speed. I think that's completely fine. If you don't want to go for that intelligence and knowledge Mordheim, you know, I think that's completely okay. The biggest difference between Verminkin and this guy is Warp Guards are probably like the heavy armor tanks. Yeah, and these guys are more like melee resistance dodgy tanks. They can be also like very good parry tanks. They also have like some innate poison resistance, so you are, for example, able to make builds which are gonna be able to withstand the clouds of your own warband, like poisons and stuff. So you can just kind of like keep a unit in place and suffocate them that way. And this unit should be like tanky enough to withstand that. Also like a thing you can do. Next unit that we have is the LGT version. And I think I would just kind of put this into a good category. You can make like a Daredevil build with like a spear and stuff. That's a possibility. But I feel like if you're trying to do... Okay, why would you play like this LGT Warp Guard? Well, it probably has to deal with the heavy armor. But I think if you're like trying to do like a damage build, I think you're probably just better off like a Black Skaven or the Assassin Adept. So it's a very good unit. It's a good unit, I would say. But I think I would prefer like using other unit for the purposes of doing damage. I mean, if you're playing like an LGD Warguard, it's because of the heavy armor. But if you're trying to play heavy armor unit, why not just use the henchman version of it? Next hero that we have is what do you call it? As the Poison Wind Globadier. So Poison Wind Globadier is probably one of my favorite units in Skaven, and for me this unit is God tier. You can also you can build this unit in 1,000,000 different ways, and you're also gonna get like a healing on top of it. The healing is not all that relevant, but you can go for it if you want. This unit has like amazing crit build. This unit can do amazing Weeping Blades build in my opinion. You can do like a melee resistance tank build, but maybe this guy does it better, honestly. You can also do like an archer build, which kind of like focuses on sharpshooting. You can make like a sharpshooter build, that's a possibility with this guy. You can also do support archer, so this unit is like incredibly flexible in what you can do. But I'm kind of putting this into the god tier category because of the dagger mastery. I really love the crit build for the Skaven. So yeah, I really like this unit in Skaven. This unit technically has +7 movement, but you can kind of like fix it with Knowledge Mordheim. Basic to keep up with the rest of the warband, if you want to do that. And the last unit that we have is actually Doomweaver for Skaven. And I'm gonna like put this into the insane category. And Doomweaver is like one of the reasons why crit builds are very good for Skaven, and it has to deal with the Idol of Lust. So what counters crit builds, right? It's crit resistance, too high of a crit resistance. And Idol of Lust, basically the more you attack a unit or something, the more prone it is to actually getting crit. So even like for example your henchman will suddenly start having like chances to crit the enemy unit. I believe this Idol of Lust also reduces stun resistance. So this is like an amazing supportive unit for the crit Skaven. There is also like a sort of a build which you can combine it with Ashen Sorcerer for the spell casting, but I don't think it's as good because you don't really have like very good options regarding reducing like magic resistance of the enemy warband. Idol of Change also like strips the positive effect from the enemy warband. So for example, if undead have a spell on a character which increases critical resistance, yeah, you can destroy it. So yeah, I actually really like Doomweaver with Idol of Lust Skaven, so that's why I kind of like putting it in the insane tier. And I guess that's it for my tier list here. Take care everybody and bye bye.